If you've seen my earlier book reviews, then you may remember that I'm a massive fan of the Hoso Kinshi, or banned broadcast series. These seem to be more familiar with people who saw the TV specials, such as the Cursed Large Family, but they're actually an entire book series that all follow the same basic premise. For whatever reason, these stories were banned from being broadcast, published, shared, etc. And you need to read between the lines to figure out the hidden twist as to why. And so, we're back with yet another, this time Keisai Kinshi, or banned publications. This book's theme is stories that weren't allowed to be published, and we have another 5 horrifying tales with hidden twists for you to uncover. As with the last video I did for this series, I'll be covering each story one by one, looking at what happens and then breaking it down after. This video is going to be rather lengthy, so you'll find chapters for all the stories and all their breakdowns, so you can watch through each one at your own pace. Now, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Our first story is Original Sin Show. Key. We open with a woman sitting in a dark bus, seeing something utterly unbelievable right before her eyes. Everyone on the bus is silent, staring at something outside. The atmosphere is intense, and the woman hopes that the hidden camera in her bag is capturing the show outside. She doesn't want to watch, but she can't look away. She needs to tell everyone what's taking place right now. This is the biggest scoop of her life. But let's rewind a little. The narrator first learnt of this strange tour on an internet bulletin board that talks about urban legends and such. It's a board she often checks to get ideas and information for her job. After spending 4 years in the breaking news department, this April she was transferred to the planning department. Here, she no longer has to worry about being the first to deliver news, but rather she has time to come up with ideas, do research, create appropriate graphics, etc., to go with the pieces they air at the end of news programs. At any rate, one night while she was browsing the bulletin board, she came across people talking about a tour where you can see people die. Apparently, you get on a bus and they take you to see, well, people dying. It sounds like nothing more than an urban legend, but the more she looks into it, the more information and eyewitness accounts she uncovers. Seems it might be real. She immediately takes it to Ms. K, the researcher for her department, to see if she can dig up anything herself. There could be a massive scoop here if it's true. And Ms. K manages to find some interesting information. It seems that this tour has a website, and you have to use it to apply. She found evidence of numerous people actually going on this tour, but you have to be chosen, and then pay a fee of 50,000 yen. On the bus, you'll get a nice meal, and they'll take you to see somebody dying. Could be an accident, a murder, or someone ending their own life. But it's not always guaranteed. If you're selected, you mustn't tell anyone about what you've seen. But finding the website is hard, as the address isn't published anywhere on the internet. Sounds like a pretty typical internet urban legend, but after some digging around, it seems Ms. K actually found the site. It was hidden in one of the fake addresses, and by adding a few letters and numbers to the end of the address, she got in. And so, our narrator visits it right away. The site is plain, with no images, and starts by informing the visitor of why the tour exists. Our current society is full of uncertainty. It claims the government is useless, people are unhappy, the economy is going to hell, etc. People are losing hope, and they're losing sight of what it means to truly be alive. This tour hopes to fix that by showing you the moment of death. By seeing someone's life end right before your very eyes, you will be reminded how precious it is, and hopefully remember that we are not immortal. You must enjoy life while you still can. Again, the site points out that it's not guaranteed that you will see this on the tour, and you should only apply if you're okay with that. Also, if you tell anyone about what you see, there will be repercussions. Naturally, the narrator applies with her personal address. Just over a week later, she gets a reply. She has been chosen. They ask her to come to the front of A building by the west exit of Shinjuku Station on July 10th, in roughly a month's time, and pay 32,000 yen as the tour fee. This is cheaper than the information Ms. K found, but either way, she takes all of this to her producer, I, and asks whether he thinks there could be a scoop here. He's unsure, but they won't know unless she goes, so he agrees the company will pay the fee, and she should check it out. If they get a story, great. If not, at least they tried. 1 week before the tour, Ms. K tells our narrator that she needs to talk to her. Seems a rival broadcast company has also started work on this same piece. This company is well known for its scoops, and it seems they're trying to get ahead of them. But the narrator has only spoken about this with her producer and Ms. K, so it's a mystery as to how they also learnt of it. It does, however, mean that there may actually be some truth to the rumours. 10. She arrives early on the day with a tiny spy camera installed in her bag. A bus arrives stating that it's for a junior high reunion, just like the email stated. First, a man in his 60s or so gets on, followed a short while later by a young man. Then, the narrator herself gets on, but they're still the only people on board when the scheduled time to leave arrives. Before long, a middle-aged woman and a man arrive, the last guests. They're all set. They head off in the direction of Nagoya, and they're told it'll take about 2 hours. They end up deep in the mountains, and they're given a luxurious bento dinner, and told that it's not time yet, so they can eat and kick back in the meantime. Then, the driver turns all the lights off, and they sit in the dark silence for about an hour. It's now after 9 p.m, and it doesn't look like anything is about to happen. Until the driver finally informs them that it's time. The bus sits at the top of a small cliff, and at the bottom, there appears to be an empty site that has been cleared for something. A ute appears. A man who looks like a farmer gets out, and he unloads something heavy that's wrapped in the back. It's a person. The person tries to run, but the man takes a bat from his truck and beats him. He then pours gasoline on him and sets him on fire. The passengers in the bus watch him burn to death. For a moment, the narrator is sure the burning man looks right at them. And so, with the show over, the bus heads back to Tokyo, arriving in Shinjuku after 11 p.m. Everyone gets off and heads home, but the narrator decides to take the long way around to make sure nobody is following her. She confirms that her camera recorded everything and watches the footage back on the way. Should she let the police know she just witnessed a murder? K2. She ponders whether what she saw was real or just a show for their benefit. But her questions are answered when, the next day, it's reported that a man burned to death in the mountains of Yamanashi Prefecture. His name was Kaji Dokuro, 53, from Kanagawa Prefecture. She immediately calls her boss, I, and after telling him what happened, he comes into work right away. He watches the footage, and our narrator wonders how on earth the tour could have known that the man was going to die on that spot at that time. They must have arranged it themselves somehow. Yet, I reveals he stopped by the police station on the way in, and they already have a suspect. Kinoshita Mamoru, 48. He was married to Kaji's niece, and often borrowed money from him. The Kajis were a wealthy family with a lot of land, but because of Kinoshita's debts, his marriage broke down. Police found a bat in his apartment covered in blood that they believe is Kaji's, and they're testing it now. So then, did the tour somehow push Kinoshita to do it then? How else can they explain the bus being at the right spot at the right time? I isn't sure, but as it stands, they still don't have a story. They need more information, and they need to figure out how best to present this shocking footage to the public. She needs to do some more digging before they can do anything else. The next morning, the news announces Kinoshita's arrest, although he's denying he did anything. Our narrator heads out to the Kaji house, which in reality is a 3-story mansion. But naturally, nobody is there. They're all at the wake. She questions neighbors about the family, but all she discovers is that the Kaji business isn't doing so well lately, and seems to be on the verge of being bankrupt. He seems to be involved in some shady stuff. She then gets changed into mourning clothes and heads to the wake, but she doesn't get much info there either. Kaji has a wife and 2 sons, university and high school aged, but apparently he lived in Aomori for work, and was known to be a bit of a womanizer. The next day, she visits Kinoshita's apartment to see if she can find any information on him. Of course, he's not home, but she wonders if maybe a girlfriend or something's there. Sadly, the apartment is empty. According to police, Kinoshita worked as a chef at an Italian restaurant. It was there he met his wife, Kaji's niece, and that was how he ended up borrowing money from him as well, so he could open his own restaurant. Sadly, this restaurant closed within a year, leaving him with nothing but debt. Did the bus tour owner pay off his debt and, in exchange, make him kill Kaji for their tour? What's the connection here? 4 days later, she has a meeting with Ms. K, but of course, she wasn't able to dig up any new information either. All out of options, the narrator accesses the website again, and this time contacts them as herself, a journalist. She wants an interview. She has a duty to report this to the people, and she hopes that by exposing it, she can help Kaji's soul move on as well. Show. Surprisingly, our narrator gets a response. Seems the organizer has something he wants to get out to the mass media as well. 1 month has passed, and our narrator visits the organizer's apartment, a short distance from Gotanda Station, with a camera on hand. An old type. Those fancy new ones that record to hard disk are too difficult to use. The organizer agrees to conduct an interview, but only if they're alone, and only if they don't film his face. They must also change his voice so no one can recognize him. He appears to be in his 30s with long hair and a beard, but he doesn't look unkempt. He looks almost Christ-like. The apartment is also sparsely decorated, which makes it look like it might just be where he works and not where he lives. Then, after confirming all of the above again, they get to filming. Our narrator asks various questions like why he runs the tour. It's just like the website states. And who's the boss? He can't say. In fact, he can't answer many questions, but he knows the people won't accept silence when it comes to how do you know where deaths will take place? So, he gives a short answer. Basically, they have an information network that spreads throughout the government, law enforcement, the underworld, etc. Over 100 people take their own lives every day, so it's just a matter of narrowing down when and where. Same with accidents, and even the same with murders. But that doesn't seem possible. Well, yes, but he also can't give away all their secrets. The point is, they know when and where it'll happen, although sometimes they do mess up, and if that happens, people get most of their money back. But the goal is to make people see death, real death, and in turn, come to value their own life. The narrator then reveals that 1 month ago, they actually took part in the tour and saw a terrible murder scene shortly after arriving. But how on earth could they know the time and place ahead of time? The only way this could be possible is if they made it happen. The man smiles and then narrows his eyes. That is exactly right. They make it happen. But then he smiles again. Would that answer make you happy? Well, as expected of someone working in the information department of a television station, they are somewhat right. They really did see a murder from the bus, but did they really see the people that the newspapers claimed were involved? What on earth does that mean? The man continues. There are many ways to frame people for crimes they didn't commit, after all. But why? How? Well, the organization basically takes requests for people who want to be reborn, to start anew as someone else. And to do that, they first have to kill them. But they don't actually kill them. They find a replacement. Then they have a little show for others to see. 2 birds with 1 stone. There's no way they can get away with it. The government wouldn't allow it. But the man argues, does the media not do the same? Do they not show and profit off the suffering of others? Suddenly, the man's demeanor changes and the tour guide from the bus appears, holding a metal bat. There's no time to run. He brings the bat down again and again, and as the world goes black, the man with long hair laughs. Our intrepid reporter wakes up in darkness and in pain, and seems to be rolling on the ground. Pretending to still be unconscious, they notice a man nearby who looks to be a farmer doing something in the back of a familiar ute. That ute was parked near the apartment. They try to stand up, but the beating they took has made that quite difficult, and the man by the ute notices this and beats them again. How does it feel? The man asks. It's the man from the interview, the tour organizer with long hair. Why are you doing this? Because, quite simply, there is a demand for it. Ever since ancient times, humanity has loved to watch death. From the public executions of old to the news today, watching other people die is a top form of entertainment. It is the original sin, and people can't help but want to see it. And congratulations, today you're the main star of the show. The man then douses them in gas and lights them on fire. The pain is unbearable, and all they can think is how they want it to end as soon as possible. But then, looking up, the reporter on fire notices something. A bus at the top of a cliff. Numerous sets of eyes watch him burn, but he recognizes one in particular. A woman he's seen at crime scenes while on the job numerous times before. The female director from Ariake. His consciousness starts to fade, and he finds himself thinking about his young son. And as he dies, he continues staring at the woman on the bus. So, this story hits you in the gut with that twist at the end, and that part alone should very much make sense while you're reading it. At the same time, in a very banned broadcasts kind of way, there are also various layers hidden within the story that you have to dig up to really understand what's happening. So, let's take a look. First of all, we start with the woman on a bus recording something horrifying. The scoop of her life. We then rewind to uncover how she found herself in such a situation. She works for a television station, and although she formerly worked in breaking news, now she works in the planning department. Basically, they come up with their own stories to report on, and she wants to investigate a rumor she has seen on the internet of a bus tour where you can literally watch someone die. She has Ms. K, the lady who works in research, dig up what she can, and she manages to find a way to the site that you're not supposed to be able to find. Obviously, some people do, because they take part in the tour, but anyway. Our reporter replies, is accepted, and she takes part in the tour where you get to watch someone die. But it seems a rival station is also investigating the same thing. They'll have to work fast, but it's unknown how they also learnt of it. At any rate, she goes on the tour, watches a man burn to death, and realizes that it's all true. And she has the footage to prove it. Her director, I, tells her she needs more information before they can publish this scoop. And news soon comes out of the victim, a wealthy landowner who seems to be down on his luck, and the murderer, the man who married his niece and now owes him a lot of money. Seems like a cut and dry case. Now they just need to figure out how the tour bus knows when and where to be witness to these events. And so the female reporter contacts them again to ask for an interview. This is where the first sleight of hand takes place. We move straight to that interview, but as it continues, several facts don't line up. The biggest tell, perhaps, but also the hardest to notice, is that the narrator stops referring to themselves as watashi. This is pretty gender neutral to begin with, but it's dropped entirely, and in the rare instance the narrator does refer to themselves, they say jibun instead. Now, the narrator also mentions they went on the bus tour a month earlier, which does line up, but the circumstances are different. The female reporter had to wait an hour in the darkness before the crime happened, while this narrator mentioned it happened soon after arrival. Weird. Plus, on the way to the apartment for the interview, the narrator mentions they prefer old cameras, and not the hard disk type that the female reporter used. Another small detail you might miss while reading is that the narrator is accosted by people on the street trying to get him to enter hostess clubs and such. Not something they're really going to try to do for a woman. Then, at the end of the chapter, the tour guide shows up with a bat, and by that point we can basically place what is happening and, more importantly, when. After all, the man with long hair has just been talking about how you can easily frame people for crimes they didn't commit. And indeed, after being attacked, our narrator wakes up, is promptly set on fire, and he looks up to see a bus with a familiar face looking down at him. It's our female reporter, who he has met several times on the job before. The story comes full circle. The story is split into 4 sections, each with a word before them. Ki, ten, K2, and sho. At first glance, these seem rather meaningless, but Japanese readers who are much smarter than me figured out that if you move them around, it makes a yojijukugo, a combination of 4 kanji that creates an idiom. In this case, that yojijukugo would be Kishou tenketsu. This basically refers to a story that has a clear start, development, twist, and then end, just like the story we read. But it also has an extra layer. Move the chapters to their appropriate placement in the yojijukugo, and you have the chronological order of events. Ki happens first. The female reporter learns of the death tour. This is followed by sho, where the male reporter interviews the organizer, and then finds himself becoming a part of the tour. This is followed by ten, where we get the female reporter's perspective of watching him die. And then finally, K2. The female reporter decides to keep investigating the tour. The end. But it seems like a weird place to end, doesn't it? There are so many unanswered questions now, like, the rest of the female reporter's investigation, her exposing the story to the world, etc. But again, hints are given throughout the story that all but spell out what is likely to happen here. After all, we just saw it take place. So the crux of the tour is that the organisers do indeed make the deaths happen themselves. They don't have some supernatural knowledge of a death that's about to take place, and then they go to watch it. They literally provide a show because it's what the people want. People want to see the original sin, but they don't just kill anyone for fun. Generally, a client comes to them who wants to start anew, and they agree to kill them. For a fee, of course. To do this, they basically kidnap someone to take their place. They kidnap the male reporter to take the place of Kaji, a man who is so deep in his own debt and having troubles at home with his wife that he wants to disappear and start fresh somewhere else. Become a whole new person. But why do they pick the male reporter? Well, he already went on the tour and was planning to expose it. Remember how the website stated that if you speak to anyone of what you see on the bus, there will be repercussions. Yeah, they weren't lying. They're not just going to let him expose a good deal they have going. The organizer even says himself during the interview that they have an information web that spreads far and wide, and this includes through the government and law enforcement. We're basically told, without using exact words, that they have folks on the inside who can plant evidence. Kaji didn't actually die, but the police confirmed it was him. Kinoshita also didn't kill him. He wasn't even there. The organizer was the killer, but they planted the bat in Kinoshita's apartment and framed him for it. To the end, Kinoshita kept denying it was him, but that doesn't matter, because again, they have people on the inside who can make everything happen just how they want. So, what's going to happen to our female reporter who has been told to continue her investigation by her producer, I? Well, she's already following the exact same series of steps as the male reporter before her, right up to asking for an interview. She's likely to become the next victim, and so the tour can continue with another obstacle removed. And yes, it's insinuated that I is also in on it. In fact, each television station likely has a plant or two for this very reason, to make sure no news ever gets out, and any intrepid reporters who get too close are gently nudged in the right direction so the tour can take care of them. We can assume Ms. K is also in on it, with how easily she found the supposedly impossible to find website. Our reporter never stood a chance. It's a brilliant story with multiple layers to it that gets better upon a second reading, much like all of these banned broadcast tales. As always, all of the hints are right there in front of you, but you might not understand them until your second time around. I found the way this story linked back in on itself in a neat little circle, with the cycle perpetuating once again even after it had finished, to be really well done though. Definitely one of my favourites. But what did you guys think of this one? Did you catch the twist as you were following, or did you think it was something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you come back for the rest of the stories, which will be getting their own videos very soon. And I'll see you guys again then. Apartment Psycho. Akiba Shoko sits inside as the sun sets. It's nearly the end of November and getting pretty cold. She turns off the heater and listens to the children outside. They're just getting home, and other than their voices at home time, it's generally quiet here during both the day and night. She turns the light on and has a sparse dinner of rice with canned enoki mushrooms and pickled plum. Then a single glass of milk. After cleaning up, she wonders when Toru will be home. He works for a construction company as a businessman, and because he's in the sales department, he often works late and goes out for drinks after, so he never comes home at the same time. After turning off the lights and looking at the bedroom, she heads to the bathroom. Inside is a small stepladder. She gets on it, removes the vent cover, then climbs up, pulling the stepladder up with her thanks to a rope attached to it. With a pocket torch, she navigates the tiny space between floors until she's above the living room she was just in. Here, she has a sleeping bag, snacks, water, and some reading material. And after a bit of reading, she turns her small light off and goes to sleep. Shoko and Toru first met at work when she was 29. He was only 1 year older, and they quickly got along well. So well, they started dating. She was decently good looking and from a well-off family, but she'd never really dated anyone that made her feel as much as him before. She was a student of the arts, while he was in the judo club at school. The type of guy she usually avoided, but for whatever reason, she was head over heels for him. But then, he dumped her. Her world seemed to fall apart, and to make matters worse, her parents passed away shortly thereafter as well. She inherited their money and quit her job so she didn't have to see him anymore. But still, she missed him. And so, she started watching him go to work from afar, and then return from work. But that wasn't enough. She wanted to be even closer. She had a spare key cut from the one he gave her before, and using that, she let herself into his apartment. It felt wrong, but she was too heartbroken to care. She made care not to move things so he wouldn't know she was there, and there were no signs of another woman in the apartment, so that made her happy. She stayed in the apartment till the sun set, listening to the boys play baseball in the park outside. She returned to her own apartment after that, but the next morning she returned after Toru left for work. But soon it's not enough. She needs to spend more and more time in the presence of her beloved, and she hits upon an idea. Maybe she can hide in the ceiling. Having worked in construction, she knows she can find the access hole in the bathroom. But how can she get up there? If she stands on the bathtub, she can only just reach. She heads to a nearby home center and picks up a small stepladder, torch, and some rope. Now she can easily get up and pull the ladder up after her. It's cleaner in the ceiling than she expected, and she finds a nice space above the living room where she can fit easily. And when Toru comes home, she can't see him, but she can hear him, and more importantly, feel him. And so, she finds herself basically living there. But she can't have Toru knowing she's there, so she's careful to never leave any trace, and replace any food etc. she eats. But spending time in his space, with his clothes, his hobbies, his CDs and videotapes, it fills her with happiness. She still wants more though, so she drills a few holes into the roof so she can peek on him. Thankfully, the roof is dark brown, so unless you look really closely, you can't even see them. About 6 months after she starts living in the roof, with spring just around the corner, it all changes. Toru comes home with a woman. She appears to be a little older than Shoko, and of course they soon start making out. She knew something like this would happen eventually, but it still pains her. She convinces herself it's just a one-night stand, however, and then decides to watch them. Enter Kusumi Hatsune, 35, as she leaves work from the clinic early. The sun is still up on this fine spring day, and she's much happier at this new job than at the hospital she used to work at as a nurse. A month has passed since she started living with her boyfriend. They met at a mixer, and although he's not exactly her type, they quickly hooked up and now they live together. But she doesn't regret it. She's after something, and she'll do whatever it takes to get it. It's night when she arrives at his apartment. The children's park outside is empty, and she lets herself in with a spare key he gave her. He's not yet home, so she grabs the remote control to turn on the lights and watches the giant 40-inch screen they now have. The house feels oddly warm, and there's some news about product taxes rising 10% soon. She can't help but think about how much she doesn't like this apartment. Things seem to move slightly of their own accord, and it always feels like she's being watched. Her boyfriend told her there was apparently a murder here long ago, and although she doesn't believe in ghosts, she wonders if maybe it is haunted. Either way, it doesn't matter. She's got something she has to do. Turning on the aircon, she heads into the kitchen. In the ceiling, Shoko can hear the water going in the kitchen. Seems that woman is starting dinner. An hour later, Toru returns home. From the ceiling, she watches everything and feels bad for him. What terrible food he has to eat from this horrible woman. She trembles in rage. Autumn. Half a year has passed since Toru and that woman started living together. And now they're married. In fact, they're handing in the documents to the city office that very moment. Shoko has considered leaving many times, but she just can't. She can't bring herself to be away from him. She needs him. But she has also stopped trying so hard to hide her presence. She purposefully moves things out of place, just a little out of anger. She loves Toru. How could that be wrong? It's that woman who's wrong, not her. 3 months have passed since Hatsune gave birth to Haruto. She returned to her family home for the birth and stayed there for a few months before returning. And now, Papa is happily holding his son. But Hatsune knows what he was up to while she was gone. He was cheating in this very apartment with a younger lady from the office. The proof is right there on his phone. But she's not angry. Oh no. This plays perfectly into her plans. After Toru and his wife have a child, Shoko finds her lifestyle has had to change. Now she's constantly at home with the baby, and she can only leave when they go shopping or go for a walk. Sometimes she even has to spend entire days back in her own apartment. But one day, a strange man shows up while the baby is asleep. Toru's wife and this man are having an affair, and they make love right there on the couch. After, they talk about how it's time to finally carry out their plan. Seems Toru's wife only married him for the insurance money. They plan to kill him. Shoko is shocked. She has to do something. She can't just let them kill her beloved. But now, his life is in her hands. She can save him from the evil woman he married, or she can sit back and let him die. Whether he lives or dies, it's all up to her. Now, she holds all the power. Today's the day. Hatsune is finally ready to carry out her plan. It's 3 p.m., and her husband is set to return at 9 p.m. that night. She's nervous, but after feeding Haruto, she puts him to bed. She can hear the children playing in the park outside. But a short while later, a strange feeling comes over her. Haruto. Something's wrong. She needs to see him. When she rushes into the bedroom, he's gone. He's only a few months old, so there's no way he could have gotten out and disappeared all by himself. While frantically searching the house, she finds the bathroom door ajar. Inside, she's shocked. There's an old stepladder beneath the now open vent cover. What the hell? She checks and can hear Haruto crying. In the ceiling? She climbs up and searches desperately in the darkness until she comes across something even more horrifying. Signs of life. Rubbish. Clothing. Even a portable toilet. Is someone living up here? And then she sees it. An elderly woman holding Haruto, trying to feed him. But only one thought consumes her. Saving her son. Hatsune jumps at the woman. Onuki Nobuhiko throws himself on the couch without even taking his jacket off. His wife, Hatsune, is in the hospital after being found unconscious in the ceiling. Their son is gone. After regaining consciousness, she told them an old woman ran off with Haruto. She also revealed to Nobuhiko that a divorce lawyer was coming to their apartment that same day. She wants a divorce. She knows all about his cheating, but that's okay. She only ever wanted one thing from him: a child. Her plan was to marry someone well off, have a child, and then divorce so she could live her life freely with her beloved child by her side. Now, that has all been taken away. The police are still looking for the woman, believed to be in her 60s, although Hatsune described her as looking more in her 80s. Perhaps living in the ceiling for so long, decades it seems, has aged her even more. Shoko, with Haruto in her arms, heads to a nearby station. She watched as her beloved Toru was stabbed to death by his wife and the man she was cheating with. She decided to let it happen, but she watched until the very end. But even after death, she couldn't get him out of her mind. She left the apartment and cleared all trace she had been there, but she couldn't stay away. Even as the tenants changed over the years, she found a way to steal and copy their keys and continued living in the ceiling. In the apartment where Toru lived and then died. But when she saw Haruto, he reminded her so much of Toru's son, and she couldn't help herself. She took him away. And now, while she waits for the train to arrive, the baby opens his eyes and looks up at her with a smile. This story's actually a little more straightforward than the previous one. At least, once it's over. As the ending reveals, we haven't actually been following the one story, or rather timeline, but instead, we've been observing the same apartment across 2 different times, tied together by Shoko in the roof. The story is told from 2 different perspectives, Shoko and Hatsune, but the way it's written is designed to fool us into thinking that Hatsune is Toru's new girlfriend, and then wife. But this is just a sleight of hand to hide the truth. As you may have noticed, Hatsune never once calls her partner by name. At the same time, Shoko never calls Toru's partner by name. Both are just the husband or the wife. We are given hints throughout the story, however, that these 2 different perspectives aren't taking place at the same time. Shoko mentions watching Toru's CRT TV early in the story, and talks about things such as his videotape collection, and turning the lights on by pulling a string. Hatsune, however, is watching a giant 40-inch screen and using a remote control to control the lights. If you're the type of person to gloss over details or quickly forget them, then the deception is all the easier to pull off. But if you do take note of how those things don't match, suddenly it becomes a lot more suspicious that the woman Shoko is watching from the roof is actually Hatsune. both stories mirroring each other is also on purpose. And it's impossible for the two different time periods to work if that wasn't the case. But the key difference is that Toru's wife did actually want to kill him for the insurance money, and she succeeded. With Hatsune, she mentions several times wanting something, but it's never specified what. You are, of course, supposed to assume that it's her husband's death and insurance money from Shoko's chapters. But no, in reality, she wanted something less deadly. A child. Just a child. But everyone's world is then turned on its head when Shoko, now in her 60s or so, sees that baby and is reminded of Toru's son from 3 decades ago. She let Toru die because of her complicated feelings of being dumped, still being in love with him, and then watching his married life take place beneath her day in, day out, warping her and, in a way, turning her into the apartment psycho of the title. Let's not forget, her twisted feelings allowed him to be brutally murdered as she watched because she was still upset with how he betrayed her. But she then also spent the next 3 decades living in that ceiling because of the mere thought she might still be close to Toru in the place where he died. She's not working with the full picnic basket. And seeing Haruto seemed to trigger something inside her. He just reminded her so much of Toru's son that her broken mind was moved to action. She stole the child and runs off, leaving his mother in the hospital with a concussion, and his father terribly confused at both the revelation his wife wanted a divorce, and also some old lady has been living in their ceiling the whole time. The story ends with them on the platform, and it's unclear whether the police will catch up to her or not. Presumably they will, but ultimately, that doesn't matter. Shoko, after living in the ceiling for over 3 decades, has finally snapped. She was certainly psychotic all along, but for the first time, she has physically involved herself in the lives of those living below, and not for the better. But what did you guys think of this one? Did you catch the twist as you were following, or did you think it was something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you come back for the rest of the stories, which will be getting their own videos very soon. And I'll see you guys again then. Captive of the Shrine Grove. Day 1. Start. We're watching the story as told through the lens of a camera, and a person is filming some dried leaves on the ground. "What are you doing?" a man says. The person behind the camera, a woman, informs her big brother that she's just taking a commemorative video of them arriving at their villa, and he unlocks the gate and they go inside. The camera starts again. The woman tells us this is the house she and her brother are now going to live in. It's rather large, wooden floors with a shaggy rug, etc. Her name is Michiru, his is Takao. He's 31, single, and looking for a girlfriend. Takao claims he has one, but Michiru has heard nothing of this. At any rate, they love this house in the middle of nowhere, and you can hear waves in the distance. They're not too far from the ocean. Night, and the siblings are eating fresh fish Michiru got from the nearby market. Takao especially loves squid, but he wants to know why she's filming this. It can't be very interesting. She agrees and turns it off. Next, we see Takao's study on the first floor. The entire room is filled with bookshelves and he's furiously typing at his laptop. There's a single mattress on the floor behind him, and he doesn't seem to be aware that he's being recorded. Day 2. Michiru screams for her brother to come see this. There's a stone in the yard she discovered while cleaning that has been splattered with something dark. She fears it might be blood. Takao assures her it's nothing, probably just paint from previous residents. She's not so sure though, and continues to film it for another 3 whole minutes. Day 3. Michiru moves through a bamboo grove and comes across a well. It's cloudy out and still a little cold, being early spring. A mossy wooden cover is on the well and she tries filming inside, but it's too dark to see anything. Scene cut. The camera is on the dining table in the villa, and the siblings discuss food again. Michiru pulled the bamboo shoots herself from the grove outside. They're delicious, Takao tells her. But that's not what she wants to talk about. While at the market, she heard people talking about their house. How a series of murders have taken place here. Takao tells her they're just rumours and she should act her age. She's in her 20s, after all. Scene cut. We're back at the well. Takao approaches and asks Michiru what she's doing. She wants to know if the well is dry, so he drops a rock and they hear a splash. Not dry yet. There's a brand new golden bucket nearby that seems out of place. They use it to pull up some water, and this makes them reminisce about playing at their grandmother's house as children, where they did the same thing. Takao remarks she was incredibly young at the time, so it's interesting she can still remember that. They both taste the water. Seems a little salty, perhaps because they're so close to the ocean. It starts to rain, so they head back. Back in Takao's study/bedroom, we can hear the rain as he again types at his laptop. Michiru enters and says there's something she wants him to see. She presents a clear file full of photocopies. She visited the library to research their house. Turns out, it does have an interesting history. In 1945, it used to be a shrine. The priest's wife, however, killed their entire family. In 1962, the then priest then went crazy and killed the wife of a nearby farmer. The shrine was left abandoned after that, renovated into its current form, and in the early 1990s, a new religious cult moved in and used it as their base. At this, Takao gets angry and doesn't want to hear it. Michiru keeps pushing, but he tells her she's getting in the way of his work and pushes her out of his room. The hidden camera in his room catches him leaning his forehead against the sliding door and silently sobbing. Scene cut. Michiru is in her room on the 2nd floor, facing the camera and talking to it. It has been 3 days since she came here pretending to be Takao's younger sister. Whenever she presents him with evidence of the terrifying events that happened here, he gets extremely emotional and shuts her out. He truly believes he is Niwa Takao, a translator. She has captured all of their conversations with a camera hidden in his room. However, using homeopathy, she believes the sensei's theory is right, and they can bring back his lost memories. The memories that he is Ochi Shuhei, the leader of a new religious cult who led all his followers to death. She will bring his memories back, and these tapes will be used as evidence against him. Day 4. As they eat breakfast, Takao asks Michiru what she thinks about the house. Like she said, she thinks it's weird and creepy. It seems he's starting to crack. Scene cut. Michiru screams and Takao runs out to find a vase broken on the floor. Michiru tells him it just fell all by itself. Takao carefully picks the pieces up and the camera fills with noise. Scene cut. The camera films the dining room as Takao stares at where the vase fell. Noise fills the screen again, Scene cut. Takao questions Michiru about the vase and whether it truly fell by itself. Does he think she's lying? No, but it's weird. She has been saying all this time that the house is weird. Scene cut to Michiru reporting in her room. She broke the vase, but told Takao it did it by itself. After all, according to reports from former members of the cult, Shuhei believed this place was full of poltergeist activity. His Takao personality is showing cracks, and Shuhei appears to be coming back. She'll keep going. They need this evidence for trial. Day 5. Michiru spends the day cutting grass and clearing the area where that stone was. When she's done, Takao stands on the veranda and looks out over it. It wasn't just one stone. There were several, and they're all covered in the same stains. She asks what he thinks this is. It's a ritual ground. These stones were moved here, and they're new. How does he know that? He just does. She pushes him on how he should know what happened here, but he snaps and throws her camera on the ground, asking why she's always filming everything. Cut to Michiru's room. Thankfully, the camera was fine, but she has to keep going. That's the ritual ground where Shuhei beat everyone to death. His memories are coming back, and she will make sure it happens. She has to, for those who died. Scene cut. Michiru films from her room. Takao is standing outside, frozen, staring at the stones. Scene cut. Kitchen. Michiru eats alone. Scene cut. Takao's room. Michiru calls him from outside, but he doesn't come for dinner. Day 6. Michiru speaks about the stone circle ritual ground. According to a local historian, a shrine was built here in the Muromachi period, and because of all the famines and such, many sacrifices were made here. This was done to try to seal all the bad energy in this one spot, and that's what attracted Shuhei to it. After he killed his followers, he then cut them up and dumped their bodies in the well. Scene cut to the dining table. They're eating again. Michiru asks Takao how the food is. It's great, as always. How about the rice and miso soup? Very good. She informs him she used the water from the well to make it tonight. Ah, so that's why it's good, he says after a silence. That night, Michiru films him from her room. He's standing in the ritual ground, swinging a sakaki branch and chanting something. Then he walks off into the forest towards the well. She follows him. The fact he was performing that ritual means that Shuhei has returned. She finds him at the well, and he asks what she's doing. She returns the question. Does he really think he can wash away what he did just by changing his name? Evil exists. It's concentrated right here. Takao then grabs her by the neck and tries to choke her, but then suddenly they hear a deep growl and someone hits the ground. It's Takao. As he coughs, Michiru runs into the forest. She speaks to the camera. Shuhei has returned, but she was stupid. She was just so focused on bringing him back and getting the evidence for trial that she didn't think of what would actually happen when Shuhei, a murderer, returned and they were alone together. In the darkness, someone attacks her from behind. She screams and then silence. The camera just picks up the sound of waves in the background. Day 7. Michiru sits up in bed. She looks around, gets up, then takes the camera downstairs. Takao is in the kitchen making breakfast this time. He tells her to eat before it gets cold. Michiru doesn't move. Takao asks what's wrong. Eventually, she calls him a murderer, then gets angry and tells him to die over and over. Then she falls to the ground, convulsing. Scene cut. Michiru stares at the camera, hair a mess. 7 days have passed, but it seems the treatment has brought Shuhei's memories back. Still, he's pretending to be Takao now. But if the law won't punish him, then Michiru will. She can't bear this any longer, and she's ready to finish this herself. In Takao's room, the hidden camera catches him talking to someone on the phone. Michiru still thinks that Takao is Ochi Shuhei and hates his guts. As Sensei told him, he's treating her like his younger sister, but he can't keep doing it. He nearly choked Michiru last night. 7 days have passed since he started living with him. He's hit his limit. He just can't forgive him for what he did. This man, Ochi Shuhei, who killed Takao's sister, Michiru, who blindly loved and followed him, then hid in the darkness of his own heart. He hates him, and he will be the one to punish him, not the law. As he's on the phone, Michiru appears behind him, holding a knife. Michiru puts her camera on the floor and attacks Takao with the knife. They struggle. Takao gets his hands on the knife and he stabs Michiru in the chest. He tells her to remember what she did. On the verge of death, Michiru remembers. I killed my wife with these hands. Michiru then mutters something odd. At the cost of the rebirth and future of humanity, I will... Then Michiru falls silent. Takao gets up and disappears out of frame, but this is briefly followed by his screams and the sounds of bones breaking nearby. Then, silence. 2 men sit in a monitor room watching all of this on a screen. A man with white hair in a suit puts the remote down and remarks how he didn't think this would all go quite so well. A young man with short hair sits on a sofa nearby and, referring to the elder man as Sensei, he notes that his brother-in-law's screams at the end add a kink to their plans. The older man informs him not to worry. They'll cut that part out. The rest will serve as important trial evidence, however. A believer who fell for the doctrine so bad he came to believe he was the leader, who then killed his wife as a sacrifice. But now that he's dead too, that's the end of that. The young man is impressed the sensei was able to manipulate such a devout believer into basically becoming a scapegoat for him, and even dealing with his brother-in-law at the same time. Well, he did physically resemble him a lot, so while dressed in women's clothing, it wasn't that hard to make the brother think he really was Shuhei as well. Shuhei thinks that, for a moment, that follower really did believe he was both Shuhei and Shuhei's wife, Michiru, and that was probably his long-cherished ambition all along. But then the smile fades from his face. Everything he has done it for humanity. Foolish, stupid humanity. And At the cost of the rebirth and future of humanity, I will... So this story is presented through a series of videotapes, and while it appears to be fairly straightforward on the surface, it goes through various layers upon layers until it ends with you not really knowing who is who and what's going on anymore. So let's break it down. We have a brother and sister, Takao and Michiru, moving into a villa in the woods. We don't know why, but that's not important. But it turns out they're not actually brother and sister. At first, we're made to think that Takao is actually Shuhei, the leader of a cult that used to live here. The grounds this house now stands on used to be shrine grounds long ago. And as Michiru tells us, Shuhei killed all his followers in the ritual grounds outside. He was attracted to this house because of its long and bloody history of sacrifices and murders. But killing everyone made Shuhei retreat within himself and start pretending to be Takao instead. His memories of what happened gone. And so, Michiru has been pretending to be his sister and doing what her sensei has told her in an attempt to bring his memories back so they can bring him to justice. A little convoluted, but still fairly straightforward. And Michiru records their time at the house to use as evidence for the trial. But as we reach the end, as Michiru thinks she has finally brought Shuhei back, the story is flipped on its head. It's actually Michiru who is the one pretending to be someone else, having hidden their real personality deep inside. Yes, Michiru is actually the real Shuhei. We're told from Takao's point of view. Shuhei, the cult leader, killed the real Michiru, his wife, and Takao's younger sister. For some reason, Shuhei, dressed as a woman, has been pretending to be Michiru, his dead wife, perhaps out of guilt or trauma, and is trying to make Takao come to his senses and realize that he was Shuhei. Even more convoluted, but still, we can follow it. But as Takao talks to his sensei on the phone, he reveals he can't carry on this facade of pretending Shuhei, dressed as Michiru, is his sister anymore. He's going to handle this himself. The law be damned. And he does. He kills the man dressed as his sister, and as he dies, he mutters about killing Michiru with his own hands, and something about selling out humanity. Shuhei comes to his senses in the end, and Takao got his revenge. At least until he exits the frame, and is apparently brutally murdered by someone or something waiting just outside. But then, the final twist upon all the other twists. We finally meet the sensei they've presumably both been talking about. And he's watching all these tapes in a monitor room with, yes, you guessed it, the real Shuhei, who is very much alive and well. Takao was indeed Takao. Takao is very much Shuhei's older brother-in-law. But the person in the house with him wasn't Michiru, nor was he Shuhei. He was simply an unnamed follower of Shuhei's cult, handpicked by the sensei to kill two birds with one stone. Deal with Takao, who was rightfully pissed that his sister was killed, and present to the world that Shuhei, the perpetrator of this terrible crime in which all his followers were killed, is dead. So, this unnamed follower, clearly not a very mentally stable one, truly believed that he was Michiru, probably with the help of a little hypnotism and suggestion on the sensei's part. But underneath that, they planted the seed that he was actually Shuhei pretending to be Michiru. But that part had to be hidden deep. Why? So Takao could dig it up. Takao was also in contact with the sensei, whose identity ultimately remains a mystery, and he was also put to work so he could achieve his goal of bringing Shuhei to justice. Perhaps also with a little hypnosis and suggestion, as he was unable to spot that this unnamed follower, who resembled the real Shuhei quite a bit, wasn't actually him, especially when dressed as a woman. So, while fake Shuhei tried to convince Takao that he was the real cult leader, Takao also did the same. And it came to a head when Takao got that confession on film, killed him, and then is killed himself off screen. Although the sensei won't show anyone that particular part. Why? Well, it's likely that the sensei, or perhaps even Shuhei himself, was the one lurking nearby to take care of him. And now, with no one standing in his way, Shuhei can carry out the final part of his plan for foolish humanity, as he himself states. It's not stated what exactly that is, but considering all the sacrifices and evil said to lurk on those former shrine grounds, it's probably not something we want to see. There are small hints throughout the story that the fake Shuhei pretending to be Michiru isn't, perhaps, who they appear to be. Small things, like mentioning Michiru's broad back whilst gardening, or Michiru's incredible strength and such. It's another of those twists that only works because we literally can't see it, like many in this book. Hence, banned from publication. Something to keep in mind with most of these stories. The twists work precisely because they're written in words, and should these be translated to the screen, well, they just wouldn't work. But what did you guys think of this one? Did you catch the twist as you were following, or did you think it was something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you come back for the rest of the stories, which will be getting their own videos very soon. And I'll see you guys again then. Thus, the perfect crime was accomplished. We open with someone stating they're now watching the perfect crime take place. Not like those ones you hear about in novels or on TV. Because you're hearing about them, they obviously weren't perfect. People found out. But this crime, this one is perfect. After 9 PM, our narrator heads home. He lives in a fancy, expensive new apartment with his soon-to-be wife, Kiwako. She heads into the kitchen to prepare his favorite dinner. He reminisces about how they reunited just 2 months ago. They used to go to the same university. She was a year younger, and they were so serious they even lived together then. But after they broke up, well, no one could stand a candle to her, and by his mid-30s, he was still single because of that. But after reconnecting over social media, 15 years later, they got back together. As they eat, they talk about their old school days, his current IT job, and how he's turning things around for the company, etc. But he also reminisces about how they broke up in the first place. Basically, his friend Wataru, an artist who called himself a genius and acted like it too. But basically, he was a bum who mind-controlled and drugged women to paint them, and, to be honest, his paintings weren't even good. Wataru invites him over to drink one night and shows him his latest masterpiece, a face that's very familiar. When he gets home, he questions Kiwako, and although she initially denies it, eventually she admits she has been seeing Wataru. He really is a genius, and he needs her. Our narrator will be fine without her, and he doesn't understand Wataru's genius. They break up. After graduation, he hears that they got married, but Wataru never became a famous artist. In fact, he basically starts a cult with all sorts of women living with him, with brainwashed Kiwako being the head woman. And before they knew it, 15 years had passed. But as time passed, well, Wataru's finances were driven into the gutter, and he found himself with more and more debt. Kiwako started to wake up and realize what was happening, and by the time she left him, most of the women in the cult had left as well. And now that they're back together, she's being a dutiful housewife, and he feels like everything has finally come back around. Cut to Kiwako's point of view. She's been back with him for just 10 days now, and he disgusts her. He's so dull and boring and never understood Wataru's worth. But she has to put up with this for now. It's all part of the plan. The pair get in bed and share some time together. They reminisce about Kiwako leaving, and she apologizes, but he wants to put all that behind them. They're together now. That's all that matters. Kiwako showers, trying to rub the scent and feel of him off. She hates his very existence, but she has to do this. It's all that woman's fault. Shion, the last woman still with Wataru. Kiwako has to show him that she's better than she is. She has to carry out the perfect crime for him. She has been mixing drugs into his food. It's all part of the plan. The next morning, our narrator makes breakfast for Kiwako, but she gets angry. She told him to leave all the housework to her. If she doesn't have that, what's her purpose in life? They argue and he leaves for work, angry. But he can't stop thinking about her, so he leaves early. When he gets home, she's acting normal and apologizes for the morning. He realizes she's the most important thing to him, and he can't lose her again. Shion and Wataru eat breakfast together. He ponders what Kiwako is up to, while comparing her to Shion and how beautiful Shion is. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, the relationship between our narrator and Kiwako seems to be getting much worse. They're both constantly in a bad mood, and when she yells at him about how she returned for him after he suggests that she see a doctor, he gets upset and yells back he never asked her to come back. Then something snaps and he hits her. This ends up becoming a regular occurrence, even though he doesn't want to lose her or let her go. Kiwako looks at her beat-up face in the mirror. She takes a few photos and plans to head to the hospital, and then the city health center, to discuss how she's being abused by her husband. It's all coming together, and this is something only she can do. Shion could never. Why are people so easy to brainwash? It's because of this facet of humanity that we can have a society. And the fact people are so easily brainwashed has led him to dreaming up the perfect crime. Kiwako should be carrying it out right now. They can't wait to see it. He has no appetite. He's not feeling well. Kiwako has to be drugging him. She's putting something in his food, no doubt about it. What does she want? As he sleeps, Kiwako sharpens the knives in the kitchen. The time has almost come. Our narrator dreams that Kiwako is trying to strangle him in his sleep. The next morning, he notices marks on his neck and confronts her about it. Why does she want to kill him? He has done everything for her. She reveals that she hates him. He disgusts her. He'll never be as great as Wataru, a man who can change mankind. he is nothing to her. So why did she approach him again after all these years? To get rid of him. Wataru's orders. He's worthless, less than a maggot, who brings nothing to society, and so he should be removed from it. She approaches with a knife, and something inside him snaps. He has no worth. Well, neither does she, being brainwashed by Wataru and being his lapdog. He snatches the knife from her hand and plunges it into her chest. She is dead. Should he call the police or a lawyer? His life will be ruined either way. No, nobody knows she was even living with him yet. He'll just hide the body. 10 days later, he has carried out the perfect crime. Not like those in novels. This one is actually perfect. Except it wasn't. Our narrator is arrested by the police. He didn't know that Kiwako visited the health center and doctors with evidence of his abuse. She told them that if they didn't hear from her in 2 weeks, then it's likely he did something to her. They took her at her word and visited his house, found it suspicious, and the police came out. They found evidence of blood from his attempts at getting rid of the body, which he fed to some carp at a nearby pond over a period of 10 days. And so he was arrested. He's looking at over 10 years for this. Police also found traces of stimulants in his body. She must have laced his food, but why? Why would she do all this? Why would she want him to kill her? He has plenty of time to think it over. Wataru attends Kiwako's funeral, crying in front of the cameras. They're not entirely fake tears. She really was loyal to him until the end. It was Kiwako who came to him, saying she wanted to die. They were in too much debt, but if she got life insurance, they could get a huge payout. But if she killed herself, the money would take years to arrive. They needed something immediate. Someone would have to kill her. And so, Wataru's friend would have to do it. 2 birds with 1 stone. The man who never recognized his genius, and who dated Kiwako all those years ago. She would incite him to kill her, and Wataru would get the insurance money. The perfect crime. 6 months later, with all the insurance money converted to cash, Shion reminds Wataru it's not over yet. He knows. He steps onto a chair. Shion watches as he hangs himself. What a stupid, easily controlled man he was, dying for her benefit. To the outside world, he would simply appear as a grieving husband and failed artist who couldn't take it any longer. But this is the moment Shion has been waiting for all this time. Now, the money is all hers. The perfect crime has been accomplished. This story is probably the most straightforward of them all. There's no real hidden twist that you have to look for after the fact, nor is there really any piecing together. The story is as it's presented, but it's the journey you must fully travel to finally understand this one. So we have an unnamed man and Kiwako as the heart of the story. They briefly dated in university, but then Kiwako met his friend, Wataru, a self-proclaimed genius and artist, and she was completely taken in by him. She left the unnamed man and he was heartbroken over it. In fact, he never really got over her, which made her suddenly showing up in his life again 15 years later all the more meaningful. We're told that during this time, Kiwako and Wataru basically lived in a cult, with Wataru as the leader and Kiwako as his main wife, but he had numerous women around him. He never really achieved any success with his art though, and the cult was also not financially stable, and they ended up in a lot of debt. And so, as we find out through the story, Kiwako comes up with a plan. The perfect crime. She was to take out a life insurance policy and have someone off her. It's the only way to get money fast, and she'll do anything for Wataru, a man she truly believes is a genius. Although we're constantly told he's just really good at brainwashing. The cult can attest to that. Anyway, to carry out this crime, they pick Wataru's old friend from university, the man who never got over her. They reunite, Kiwako starts lacing his food with stimulants, and basically baits him into abusing her, which he does. She records evidence of this, takes it to authorities with a warning that if she goes missing, well, her partner probably did it. And after he finally snaps and does indeed kill her, well, now he tries to carry out the perfect crime, getting rid of her body so nobody even knows she's gone. After all, they didn't tell anyone she was living there. Of course, Kiwako prepared for that. He ends up being arrested, and even if he does eventually get out of jail, he'll forever be known as a murderer. His life is over. But Kiwako proved herself to Wataru, and he got the money. Truly a perfect crime. But it's not over yet. It seems Wataru isn't the only one good at brainwashing, as he falls for Shion, a woman he constantly describes as beautiful, alluring, not like other women, the only one still with him after everyone else left. And she, in essence, brainwashes him into also killing himself and leaving the money to her. And this, in the end, is the actual perfect crime. None of this can ever be traced back to Shion, because officially, the unnamed man is a murderer. Kiwako is dead, and now Wataru, the grieving husband, has followed her. Shion wins. The end. But what did you guys think of this one? Did you catch the twist as you were following, or did you think it was something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you come back for the last story, which will be getting its own video very soon. And I'll see you guys again then. Banned publication. We start with a woman, Naoko, filming a middle-aged man in a sedan. Another woman seated in the back asks what she should call him. He says anything will do. Just call him Tanaka. She asks what he's doing. He's just driving, no destination in mind. Does he do this often? He does. Why? She'll soon see. The two women are filming him for an audience, but we don't know who yet. Tanaka then points ahead of them. A blue sports car just threw a cigarette out the window. Tanaka pulls over, dodges the cars, picks up the butt, and gets back in the car. He then speeds after the sports car, chasing them for about 15 minutes. The sports car finally pulls off the highway and into the parking lot of a family restaurant that looks like it hasn't seen much action in years. The driver, a young, thuggish-looking man, gets out. So does Tanaka. Naoko keeps filming from inside the car. The two men briefly argue and Tanaka returns the cigarette butt. He gets angry when the young man doesn't say thank you and gets more and more annoyed with his attitude, eventually slapping him upside the head a few times and finally forcing an apology out of him. The young man seems especially afraid when Tanaka mentions taking him back to the office with him. The man's girlfriend cowers in the car. Tanaka tells the young man to never litter again, and one more thing before he goes: be good to his parents and ancestors. As they set out, the woman in the back asks Tanaka if he does this sort of thing all the time. He does. He knows that he and the others can't really stop everyone, but they have to try. They are needed. The woman accuses him of going a little too far, but Tanaka argues he held back because he was being filmed. Do these interactions sometimes lead to fights? They do. And the police? Sometimes they get called in, but most people know they're in the wrong, so they don't do anything about it. So, why does he do this? Well, it's his job. The Japanese people have lost their way. He wants to make the country a better place. He and the others from the Preservation of Dignity Society, that's right. Rumors of this group, dubbed the Dignity Society for short, started on bulletin boards and social media a few years back, but as they don't have a website, contact info, etc., they're not exactly easy to find. But numerous stories all over the internet claim that they were responsible for all sorts of bad people getting punished. But do they actually exist? Are they a real group? Why has Tanaka agreed to this interview? Well, he wants the world to know about the Dignity Society and their work, as many people still don't know they exist. The woman asks if he is the group's leader. He is. Rumors on the internet claim that the leader is actually a soldier from the Second World War who didn't like what he saw as the loss of Japanese identity after. In fact, he was so serious about making sure people followed the right path again that some people were even murdered over it. Tanaka informs her that's all a lie. After all, she can clearly see he was born after the war. If that were true, he'd be over 90 now. So then, why did he start this organization? Well, Japan used to be a great country. Once the warring states period was over, the samurai no longer had to fight, and so they focused on bettering themselves, both mentally and physically. But modern Japan has lost that spirit. People have become nothing but trash. He wants to bring that old Japanese spirit back, and it still lives on inside everyone. The trio gets stuck in a traffic jam. Turns out a truck is parked on the side of the road, but it's too big, so cars are being forced to go around it. He gets out and yells at the driver, before spitting on him. This naturally angers the man, and he chases after them in his truck. Tanaka leads them through a residential area on smaller and smaller roads until they lose the man. But this was all according to plan. He wanted the man angry enough to chase them, so his truck would no longer be causing the traffic jam. A short while later, they head to a nearby station. When they get there, Tanaka harasses folks who are looking at their phones as they walk. Then they get on the train and he harasses a few folks on there as well. A businessman talking on the phone, and a woman doing her makeup. Nobody has any shame anymore. The trio get back in the car and head back towards Tokyo. It's now dark outside. They chat a little more about Tanaka's work, and then Naoko turns off the camera. Tanaka relaxes and asks if that was okay. The woman says he got a little carried away there, but they can edit out the bad parts. But he looked convincing as the Dignity Society leader, so they can work with it. She asks him to tone it down a little for the next day, and before they wrap up for the day, he asks her one final question. Does the Dignity Society actually exist? I have no idea. The next day, they go a little over their plans. They'd like Tanaka to take them to his office and film him there. Turns out Tanaka is a friend of a friend, someone from the entertainment industry who found himself in debt after his company went bankrupt, and he's now trying to work that debt off. He's just acting as the Dignity Society leader for what these two ladies are filming. At the office, which Tanaka has borrowed from a friend and set up to actually look like one, they do a few takes to get the answers the ladies want, but then Tanaka suggests they move the interview into the meeting room. Confused, the women follow him. Inside, Tanaka locks them in, and they notice two bodies on the floor. There are no windows, and only a single light above. What the hell? The entire mood shifts. Tanaka insists they keep filming and interviewing him. Who are these men? Why is he doing this? Well, the younger man is a murderer, and he's not going to let this man get away with it just because he was a teenager at the time. He drags him out a door in the back, and after some screaming, silence falls. Tanaka returns alone. He informs the ladies he strangled that man to death. Who on earth is Tanaka, really? There's no way he's actually the real deal, right? Have the ladies gotten themselves in over their heads? Who is the old guy? Just some homeless bum who's as worthless as a cockroach. But he's not the only one he has his sights set on today. He turns to the woman. There's someone he hates even more. Someone with even less dignity. Journalists. People who try to make fake documentaries like this one for fun. Tanaka grabs the camera and turns it on her. She pleads for her life, but he throws her into that room where he killed the other man. But, to the woman's surprise, Tanaka tells her to run. She can leave via the balcony. Go get the police and bring them back. She is his only hope. Now she's really confused. He reveals that the old homeless guy in the other room is the real Dignity Society leader. What he says goes. He can't escape. If he tries, the old man will kill him too. Their meeting was set up on purpose, having Tanaka pretend to be the boss while, in reality, the old man wanted her dead. Journalists have no dignity and they deserve to die. This whole thing was to turn the tables on her. She's been set up. But he can't bring himself to kill a woman, so she must run. And he can't go with her. Their people are all over the country. He wouldn't be safe anywhere. She has to bring the police back while he pretends to kill her so they can finally bring this operation down, and the old man doesn't get suspicious. But can she trust him? Is he really telling the truth? He is. She has to go. Now. He's lying. The woman turns the camera on him, and the old man enters the room holding a katana. Leader, if you would, she says, and he prepares to cut Tanaka down. Now, Tanaka is confused. You see, it wasn't actually the woman being set up. It was Tanaka. How the turns table. They know all about his bankruptcy and failed company. In fact, they know all about all his failed companies. He's become quite good at it. He's a fraud, continually wasting money, but he won't be getting away with it any longer. You should be ashamed of yourself. The old man brings the sword down, and Tanaka screams. Once the camera is off, the pair congratulate themselves on a magnificent film. The old man asks the woman if his acting was okay. It was more than okay. He played his role as the leader, pretending to be an elderly homeless man, perfectly. The pair then hear clapping, and the woman turns the camera to the door. There stands Naoko, clapping. After this, we get a page telling us how this information was leaked anonymously to a magazine, and somehow footage made its way onto the internet as well. Although it has since been deleted, it caused quite the fuss, and the publishing companies decided they didn't want anything to do with it. It was, essentially, banned from publication. But we're not done yet. We need to explain that final line. Why was Naoko clapping at the door? What on earth was going on? The woman thanks Naoko for all her hard work as well, but she plays it off. All she did was hold a camera. "But you really did well, Shoko," she says. This is the first time we hear the woman's name, and it's incredibly important to note the kanji her name uses. Another more common way these characters can be read is Naoko. That's right, just like the silent woman who held the camera this entire story. But it's Shoko's next words that reveal the final twist. "To receive such praise from you, Naoko, our leader." That's right, after what seems like everyone setting up everyone else, everyone pretending to be someone different, in the end, the actual leader of the Dignity Society was Naoko, the quiet woman holding the camera. So, let's dig into this one, as it's a little confusing with not a single person telling the truth throughout. At its heart, this is a story about the Dignity Society, a group of people who may or may not even exist, who supposedly take out the trash, so to speak, in Japanese society. They want to return the Japanese people to their former glory, as these days everyone has lost their morals, their honor, their dignity. Now, we have two women, one by the name of Naoko who holds the camera, while another unnamed woman does all the talking. They're following around a man who goes by the name of Tanaka. He claims to be the leader of the Dignity Society, and they spend a day or two filming him while he does his thing, taking out the trash. However, we soon find out that this isn't the truth. Tanaka is actually an actor. He's helping these two women by pretending to be the leader of this society that none of them are sure even exists. They're journalists, and this is the story they want to sell. And he needs money, so he agrees to go along with it. But after this twist, the story is twisted again. Just kidding, Tanaka actually is a member of the Dignity Society, and now he's going to take out the trash again. By trash, he means these journalists who are making a fake documentary. Got him. He throws the unnamed woman into another room to kill her, leaving Naoko with the tied-up homeless man. But wait, no, another twist. Turns out that the old man who's tied up in the other room, he's not actually a homeless guy. He's the real Dignity Society leader. He specifically set Tanaka up with these women so he could draw them here to kill them. He hates journalists with no morals. But Tanaka can't kill a woman. But he also can't run. The Dignity Society has eyes and ears everywhere. She needs to go now and get the police. It's the only way. But wait, we have yet another twist. The old guy enters the room and now the woman turns the camera on Tanaka. Turns out he's been set up. They know all about his constant business failures and fraud. He really was the star of the show all along. And the old man, the Dignity Society leader, kills him. But wait, even more twists. The old man is also an actor. So what the hell is going on? The woman turns to the door when she hears clapping, and there stands Naoko, congratulating them on a job well done. She praises our unnamed woman, for the first time referring to her by name, Shoko, a name that uses characters that can also be read as Naoko. And Shoko thanks Naoko, the leader, for the praise. Yes, Naoko was actually the leader all along, and their target for all this was Tanaka, a man who has committed a long string of bankruptcy frauds. But why go to all this much trouble? Well, several times the thrill factor is mentioned, but the story also tells us that this footage was leaked onto the internet. Who leaked it? This part we don't know. We're not told, and there are no hints. Did Naoko herself leak it to remind people of the Dignity Society's power? Is that why they filmed these things to begin with? Did another member of the society turn traitor and leak it, trying to expose Naoko and what she's doing? This is also a possibility, and would explain why the footage was then deleted so quickly, and the mass media forced into never speaking of it again. Tanaka seems to know quite a bit about the society, and he remarks about how they have eyes and ears everywhere. It's probably safe to assume he was actually a member, and he really did believe the old guy was the leader. This poses several intriguing questions. Does that mean that everyone else in the society also thinks the old man is the leader? How many people know that it's actually Naoko? At the very least, the old man himself and Shoko know she is the real leader, but are they the only ones? Now, Tanaka was deliberately set up. Why? Was it just for his fraud? Maybe. But maybe they also knew that he was a potential leak. After all, he told Shoko he couldn't kill her and she should go to the police. Has he been showing signs that he could turn traitor to them, and that was the real reason he was killed? Was his death then filmed as a way to warn others? Did one of those others get their hands on the tape and leak it to do what Tanaka couldn't? And what is the significance of the unnamed woman, Shoko, having a name that could also be read as Naoko, the name of the actual leader? So here's the thing. Apparently this was supposed to be the trick for the people reading the book. You and me. We, the readers, were apparently not supposed to know that there were 3 people filming this documentary all along. We were supposed to assume that it was just Naoko and Tanaka. And so, when it's revealed at the end that there was another woman with them all this time, and Naoko is now standing at the door, it's a shocking reveal. Wait, what? But when I started reading, I immediately picked up on 3 people. The story literally tells us right at the start that Naoko is sitting in the passenger's seat, and then Tanaka looks in the rear view mirror to talk to a woman in the back seat, who is only ever referred to as kanojo, or her. To me, that was immediately evident as a separate person. But I guess some people were just skimming the text and assumed her was referring to Naoko as well. I don't know. I'm confused how apparently a lot of people missed the fact that there were 3 people taking part in the story from the research I did afterwards. But it seems this was supposed to be another twist for readers. She's not named because you're supposed to assume it's just Naoko filming and interviewing Tanaka. But in reality, when the text says kanojo, it's referring to Shoko. You're just not supposed to know it yet. It's another layer on the cake of deception. But for me, this one fell flat because I didn't even realize it was supposed to be there. Whoops. So, the 5 stories in this book all share a common trait. People are not who they seem. There is some sort of deception taking place in each story. In Original Sin Show, you're fooled into thinking the reporter is the same person the whole time. But in reality, the story is told from the perspective of 2 reporters over 2 different time periods. In Apartment Psycho, you think Shoko in the ceiling is dealing with the same woman the whole time. But again, it's actually 2 different women over 2 time periods. In Captive of the Shrine Grove, we're initially led to believe it's a story of a brother and sister, but as the story progresses, we realize neither of them are who they seem to be. Thus, The Perfect Crime Was Accomplished is perhaps the most straightforward, but you can spend the entire story wondering who the title is actually referring to. Who is the character that actually pulls off the perfect crime? You're kept guessing until the very end. And in Banned Publication, apparently you were supposed to think it was just Naoko and Tanaka, and then be confused by the final reveal that actually there were 3 people all along. But I can't say anything about that because I read the entire story thinking there were 3 people to begin with. Whoops. And so, these are all banned publications because they're stories that only really work in text. The moment they're filmed, they immediately give away the twists and thus won't work. Take Apartment Psycho, for example. If we film that story, we have to show Shoko looking at 2 different people in the apartment below. We will see her when she is young and when she is old. And so the story doesn't work. If we film Original Sin Show, again, you'll immediately see which reporter is doing the interview at the end, and so the twist is ruined. And so this book is differentiated by others in the series by being twists that require text to work, much like another of my favorite stories, Another. If you film them, the mystery is gone. Banned publications. Of the 5 stories, I'd say Original Sin Show was probably my favorite, although Captive of the Shrine Grove also kept me reading to see where the story was going to go and what the twist was going to be. I do think every single one of them was really well done, however, and ultimately your personal taste on the subject matter will determine which story or stories you like the best. Would I recommend this book? Highly. Very highly. I love this series and I'm excited to dive into another one soon. If you're studying Japanese and can read at a decent level, I would also highly recommend this book. Yes, each story has a twist or 5, but the language itself isn't too complex, and I found reading it to be smooth sailing for the most part. You generally won't come across any big or complex words or phrases you have to look up every 3 sentences. It's a very decent read. I'm going to be honest, I didn't see this video ending up as long as it is now when I started, but this was just such a good book that I kind of had to. I'll leave a link in the comments to where you can pick up your own copy if you want, but let me know your thoughts below. Which story sounds the most interesting to you? Which do you think had the best twist? Have you picked up a copy of it for yourself? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys again next time.